Hi, and welcome to the Kelly Kitley podcast, America's Social Worker Unfiltered, where every week I have hopeful, honest, and deeply human conversations with change makers. And today, so serendipitously as life unfolds, I found Tiffany Johnson on Facebook, who is the founder of We Too Shall Pass. She is an end of life resource guide, a doula, a ceremonialist, and a willow casket weaver. And I am so grateful to have you on today. Thank you for saying yes.
Thank you, Kelly. It's a deep honor. I have loved everything I've listened that you've put out there. I enjoy your curiosity and I'm thrilled you want to talk.
Thank you. And, as I mentioned with Facebook, we have a mutual friend in common. And as we were talking before we pressed record, sometimes social media gets a bad rap. But um, in my experience, I have just found so many amazing nuggets. And our mutual friend, Sarah, had posted the Chicago Sun-Times article that you were featured in, and I just found myself so drawn to it and checked out your website, We Too Shall Pass, which is one of my favorite. I'm in Alcoholics Anonymous, and one of our favorite sayings is "This too shall pass." So I love it, and as a lot of the listeners know, I lost my dad about 5 weeks ago, and we had been estranged for about 5 years. But I'm the oldest of five, and all of my siblings and his ex-wife of 30 years, my mom, showed up at his bedside. And we joke that the only reason we could be there was because he was not coherent. Um,
You're
but it
not
was
the
a
only.
beautiful goodbye for us, and I facilitated a ceremony, and people got up and spoke, and it was very intimate and beautiful, and we couldn't have written a better script. And so when I went to your website, like my eyes were just welling with tears, and I'm like, this is so beautiful. And so I want to turn it over to you because I am no expert in this by any means. I am extremely spiritual, and was so drawn to everything on your website, the words, the ceremonies, the rituals. If you could just take some time to educate us about the work that you're doing.
Yeah, wow, Kelly, thank you. I mean, what you did for your dad is, I mean, that's part of that journey. And I'm no therapist, right? I can't possibly venture into the world of your expertise, but I do bear witness to so many of these beautiful stories and sometimes the journeys. I get to walk alongside of families and there's a different fit for everyone, and that's my favorite part. I'd say, my own practice of spirituality is pretty irrelevant to the work I do because it's not about me, and I get to
Oh my gosh, I just got chills.
right? Because everyone's story and experience in this vessel, and pardon me for saying, but sometimes I say it to people, it's like in this meat sack, in
Yeah,
this
yeah.
lifetime, we get to have this experience. If whatever there is before and after, beyond, um, I'm so open to hearing what people's interpretations are of that because the simple fact that's true for all of us is that we are mortal. There is an expiration date for this body, and we don't necessarily know when it is. If we're privileged enough to have a full and long life and we can plan for what that looks like, then why squander that opportunity? And so that's what one of my missions is in life, is to help people have the conversations. Even just last night, I was at an event and a woman who invited me introduced me as her death doula. And I was like, oh, I wasn't going to say that myself. But she did. And her friend kind of looked at me, and her friend and the person who introduced me walked away, and she said, does she need a death doula? No, it's like, well, I mean, we kind of all do in a sense at some point, right? If we're willing to admit we're mortal, right?
Mhm.
At some point, then, even my 18-year-old, as soon as he turned of an age where legally his choices are his own, but what happens to his body, we're going to have those talks because he gets to say. And there's so little we get to have a say in when that end is nearing.
Mhm.
Usually it's not when we want it to be, or it's too soon. And so,
Mm.
what semblance of like dignity and autonomy and control can we get back? And so I think doulas help remind people of what those options look like.
Dignity and autonomy.
Mm,
That is beautiful when you talk about death, because everybody has a different wish and desire. And, of course, since my dad passed, now I'm asking my mom, so what do you want?
right?
And like, I do talk about death, I think, because a lot of people fear it, and I think that having a different perspective about it, and I want to talk about how you came into this role, and your own experience with your dad having a major stroke, I think when you were 12, and being with him. um but like, people don't want to talk about it, and they're afraid. And having had my own experience with my dad's passing, it was beautiful. I mean, and it opened up conversations for my siblings and I as well. And so, you know, being a death doula, from my understanding, is pretty new in the last 20 years or so, that people have come to understand what this is, or
Or even that there was a need for it,
a
right?
need.
And
Okay.
I want to go back to something you said really quickly because there's, yeah, both pieces. I get really excited about different things in here. I,
Me
I might
too.
be one of the only people that gets excited but talking about death, but that's okay. Someone has to, right? So, but you said people don't really want to talk about it. And I think it comes across that way, but I would venture to kind of reframe, in my mind, I reframe it as to people don't know how to talk about it, but actually do,
Mm.
because it is a very unique for like good fortune I have that when I open my mouth and I start to share my passion and in the vet clinic or like on a plane, or I mean it's been literally everywhere I go. At some point it kind of comes out because I'm a conversationalist. I'm
Mhm.
curious about people like you are. I
Mhm.
just want to hear stories. And
Mhm.
so I want to sit in an office and be waiting for an appointment and miss out on an opportunity to listen to someone share where they're at. I just think it's life is my school. I'm a non-traditional learner, so digressing there a little bit, but that's been my education, is learning from others and being a sponge to the world around me because it's amazing.
Mhm.
And so anyway, I find that people do want to talk about it. They just don't feel safe enough, or they don't feel the opening, or they don't know who and where and when or how to start. So when I've opened the door, I mean, it's a good thing I'm really forgetful because I hear so many stories and I've heard so many, and they just kind of they have to wash through because there's so
They
many,
have to.
and they're
Mhm.
big and they're beautiful, and I'm sensitive and I just don't have the capacity to hold other people's. I can contain it and give them the space, but I need to let it go so that I can hear more and give more people opportunity to
Mhm.
then maybe start asking themselves questions about what they want because
Mhm.
they started. That's
Mhm.
what death cafes do, and I've been doing those for years, or death over dinners, and I invite strangers into my home and we sit and break bread and drink wine and ask questions and people listen to each other. I mean, that's the world I want to live in. And yeah, the social media thing, right? I'm so
Mhm.
glad it brought us together. And also, it's a hard place to be too, because it's kind of an echo chamber sometimes. People kind of, I feel like they just want to spew what they think.
Mhm.
And what I want to do is just, I want to hear what you know and what feels true to you, and maybe glean a little knowledge or information from that. And I can carry that forward into how I serve others as I learn about different cultures and faiths and all of that, right? It's just an education ground. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I've been to a death cafe before at the Oak Park Public Library.
oh
Um,
yeah, I know folks who run those. They're great people, wonderful people.
and I had a good friend who had gotten her death doula. I don't
Certification, yeah.
certificate. I was going to say certificate. I don't know. I'm not
Yeah. It's not
savvy
a
with
license.
language.
It's not a licensed
It's not a
profession
license.
currently.
Um,
Yeah.
But I feel like you were born into the world to do this, and you haven't always been doing it. I mean, you have background in massage therapy, art therapy. Um, you're definitely a holistic mindset and live a life seemingly that you practice
Yeah.
and is rooted in groundedness and nature. We talked about your garden. Um, but I just paused for a moment because I'm like, we talked about your garden. The
Fair.
listeners didn't talk about your
Okay,
beautiful
that's fair.
garden.
And the garden is a tiny little, I nickname myself, I'm like a Northwoods fairy. I grew up in the National Forest on Lake Superior in northern Wisconsin on like 15 to 20 acres of forest. The local college was like an eco-conscious, like a natural college, and they would use our land for things. So, I mean, we were surrounded by farms and beautiful spaces that people, used as a living, but ours was natural, and that was my playground. And those animals and those plants were who I talked to. I'm the youngest of four, so big family like yours. But I was the youngest by 7 years to my next sibling. My parents were pretty surprised when I came around. And so I like to say they were happy about it, because it turned out in those later years when my dad did get sick and I was 12 and he had that stroke, um, I was the only one at home. My sister had just left for college. The others had, moved on with their lives and were living far away. And so I grew up with great reverence for nature, surrounded by Native American land and friends, and understanding that there was a different way to commune with what's around me. I did grow up with gratitude. I will say that. I had the tremendous privilege of being surrounded by natural beauty and a loving family. So thankful, right? And so every day I know that's not everyone's experience, but I do try to carry that awareness forward of
Mhm,
what's possible.
mhm,
And so when my dad had his stroke, and really because we were so far out, the things progressed to a degree that, I mean, he really, in some ways, shouldn't have survived. But we live in a space of amazing Western medicine that can be near miracle level recovery. They brought him back, but he was dramatically changed for the most part. He lived in a wheelchair for the next 7 years, varying states of rehabilitation and setback and seizures. And so I was in and out of that medical system with him and with my mom throughout all those years, and witnessing people doing a great job with supporting us and sometimes not. And
mhm,
um, yeah, just knowing that his very slow decline, a lot of it having to do with probably anxiety and fear, and but really not wanting to leave us.
oh,
Um, he hung on for a very long time. And so by the time his body grew so tired, and I was 19 and I came back from Chicago, I had just moved here to go to the Art Institute to study art therapy, and he died after that first year. I I was able to witness the power of that mindset. He waited for all of us, all four of us children, to come from different corners of the country and
mhm.
arrive bedside. And we each took our turn, and along with my mom, to say goodbye. And he took his last breath.
Oh my gosh.
I saw that that was possible. Like, that was my training ground. So it very much has been a part of my life to know everybody deserves that
Mhm,
if we can give it to them. And how do we get that to as many people as possible who maybe don't have a natural biological family that loves them,
mhm,
or
mhm,
you know people who have yeah, been through traumatic change. And I don't know, right? There's just a million different scenarios that it can possibly not happen, or we
mhm,
have to put our elders, like our parents, into assisted living facilities because that a variety of reasons that's the only or best choice. And then you're trusting caregivers to be the people that are there and present. And I see a huge need in educating those caregivers and staff and community about how to shift from curative and sustaining care into comfort care at the end.
Mm.
So one of my missions in my doula work is to do that education piece, and we'll do that hopefully through the hospice home I'll tell you about later. But yeah, I just because as a doula, I'm one-on-one, right? I love serving people bedside. I love helping people prepare, but at the end of the day, that's not reaching enough people.
Right.
So how do we get it out there more? And so we're kind of developing like a training program. And when people hear about what I did, it's amazing how people are like, I want to do that. I didn't have this. I didn't have access to that. I saw this go poorly, or I saw that was so beautiful. I want to help make that happen. So anyway, it's just like an underground movement. I was telling our mutual friend Sarah about it too. I was like, we need to create like a society of caregivers. It's like,
Sure. Sure. Oh my gosh. And, I have to believe that is your mom still alive?
she is, yeah.
Have you talked about planning for her death and what her wishes are?
Well, I laugh because of all people to ask me about. My mom is actually the one that she's a beautifully strong and robust spiritual relationship to God and self and the beyond. And I love it so much. And she keeps a lot of what that looks like to herself because
Mhm.
she's so happy with that a relationship that she's grateful for the work I do, but we don't really go there about her choices.
Yeah,
But I
okay.
was, but it was really beautiful to walk alongside of her with my dad and to at that end, even at his funeral, um, be able to, just hold each other and be present and know that, he chose to be buried, and there's a cemetery in my tiny little town up north, and I can go there. There's a space for her if she so chooses to use it. She may surprise us. Because trust me, of all people, right? I make people talk, and if she won't tell me, this is going to be
Hey,
a
I've
surprise,
got a couple of those in my life too.
right? Like that's just the fun of like
Yeah.
when you're pregnant, is it a boy or girl? Don't tell me. I don't know. But anyway, I can go to my tiny town and I did this the past couple summers, and on a warm day I take a book and I lay on my dad's grave, and I don't have people look at me weird. I actually the undertaker came around when I was there last time. He's like, "You need a soda pop?" Like he just knew I was there, and those are little things that I try to share because I don't think people even realize little things you can do for yourself after you've lost someone. And that's part of doulaing too, if that's a term, doulaing.
Dueling. I love it. And so ritual is so important. And ceremony. And you said it's not about you in these moments of holding space for people. So how do you show up like and create these ceremonies and these rituals around death?
So for me, it's I kind of touch on all the senses because of my art background and learning it was my therapy.
Of course.
And so I moved into a space after I had married and had children and kind of did a lot of renovation work. Creating sacred space was just actually part of my art journey. It all kind of ties together. The caregiving first for my dad, and then the art being something I needed and I wanted to help others express their thoughts and feelings and experiences through. And then going into the design work, it's like, wow, well, I can help people. Like my home, I'm the deepest honor when they come in is to say, your home just feels like you. Like, I just want to be here and sit in it. And I think that's what we can do and should do for people when they're transitioning. And so when I get to know people, I love to imagine, what is that space? If you were to choose, if you had the great opportunity to say, this is the last thing I look at, or this is who I want here, or what I want to smell, or how I want the textures to feel. So I get people thinking about that because the artist in me is just curious, but also what a great opportunity to maybe manifest. And I
Mhm.
think we are all very powerful manifestors. I know I am for the good and the bad. but I'm aware. And so having that awareness, I also know I'm not different from others in that. Like we can potentially create at least something close to what we hope to have. And especially it'll never happen if we don't talk about it or write it down.
Hmm.
So as a doula, then I come in and you're like, how do you help people with that? And I just want to give people options. And that's why I got involved in the medical aid in dying movement here in Illinois, which
Hmm.
that law just passed.
Yay! Wait, what is this called? Deb's Law?
Deb's Law. Yep, I
Okay.
know Deb. She's an extraordinary woman. I'm so happy that they named the law for her. And all the other people I got to meet who didn't have access or loved ones didn't, had to be in another state. I mean, story after story, again, not my own lived experience. Quite honestly, I don't personally know right now if that would be a choice I would make for myself to access medical aid in dying. I
Medical aid in dying. So it's not assisted suicide.
absolutely not,
Correct.
definitely
I
not.
just want to make that clear for people who are listening. This is
Yeah.
somebody knows that they may have, let's say, 4 weeks to live.
Yes. Yeah, it's the parameters are a prognosis of 6 months or less to live independently, verified by different doctors, and be of sound mind. It's very
Okay.
different than the Canadian law, and people kind of mix up what goes on here with other countries.
Okay.
Um, for the good and the bad of that too, there are populations and communities of people who wish they could have access to this medicine and they will not qualify. But so they're just we need there needs to be boundaries and safety precautions put in for vulnerable populations too. So it's a balancing act. But so anyway, I mentioned that for me because I did home birth for both my kids.
Of course you did.
I'm a crunchy granola. That's another thing I say. So my ancestors did it, right? I knew their bodies could do it. I wanted to have that opportunity to know I was that strong that I could dig that deep. That's probably why I got into roller derby too. I like to feel.
Oh, I
I like
mean,
to feel life.
you are so dynamic. It's out of control. Um, what is the willow casket weaving that you do?
Yeah. So again, the art background pulled me in. I got into the love of death care through the massage therapy work. I loved working with hospice patients. And then from there, obviously, I love working with my hands, right? And being that holistic arts kind of healing in that world. And so after I went into being a celebrant and I worked for a huge funeral company for a while, I learned about the after death care practices in our country. And I was not thrilled with what I saw being a very natural person myself and seeing how traditional burial works and the unnecessary levels of embalming that happen in this country and all these ways that people we try to take care of our bodies, those that again have the privilege and opportunity to like eat well and think about how we're nourishing and making our life as healthy and strong as possible, but then not really thinking about that after of what are we doing with this vessel afterwards. And I would like to leave the earth as gently as I kind of came into it. And so that idea of just having the earth take me back, and people say, I just want to have a tree grow from me, right? I hear that a lot. And there was this like artist team, I think out of Italy or something years ago, and it was something Mundi that it was like a tree pod thing. And so you saw the picture of a person curled up so sweetly in this fetal position, and then these root systems and a tree growing up out of them. It doesn't quite happen that way. But but we can go back to old burial practices. And this isn't new. This is a remembering of how we used to care for our dead and our loved ones with home funerals and natural burials. And I just think there is a movement and a resurgence of curiosity and willingness and interest in going back to those practices.
Mm.
So I found where the green burial sites are. What are the materials? I love shrouding, and of course, different cultures, that's the option, right? And then I learned about these willow caskets, and I went out to England and I was trained about 4 years ago, and I came back here and it's like willow grows wild up in northern Wisconsin. You can harvest it everywhere. It's a little challenging, so I was buying the rods because for caskets you need like 6, 7 foot rods. And that's a little challenging to find in nature. So I just decided to end up growing my own. So I took the land that was my dad's farmland in Wisconsin and I planted a willow farm. So now I harvest my own and I can teach courses, and I'm amping up to do that soon. So yeah, I'm a full spectrum death care.
Gosh. I know that you're opening a hospice home, but can you write a book and put it on the docket, please? I just want to like sit and have you speak so eloquently, and I'm like hanging on to every word. Um,
Oh,
and I just need your words on paper, please. So
well,
when you're
thank
done
you.
opening the hospice home, could you work on a book?
I'll add that to the
Okay.
list. I would love to. I thought about it. I do love storytelling, so that probably helps a little bit. Maybe if I can audio, thank God for technology now,
Sure. Oh yeah. Yeah.
it'll make
Um,
it fun.
but what is this home that you're Yes.
So this is the thing I'm most excited about now because, as I said earlier, as a doula, right, you can only serve just so many people. How do we give the greater population access? So a social model hospice home, and I only say hospice because a lot of people know what hospice is.
Mhm.
But we are a non-medical space. So we're a 501(c)(3). It's named after my dad, Wally's Hearth. And it's also named after one of my first doula clients, who's a Chicago City firefighter, my co-founder of this nonprofit's very dear friend, and his name was Wally also. So it's the Wallys in my life that were just like, carry this work forward, do this.
Mm.
You supported us, support others, in our name. And so anyway, that's Wally's Hearth. And so the social model hospice home has been around for a few decades in the United States. For whatever reason, one hasn't ever opened in Illinois, so we'll be the first here. And so that's why I'm so passionate about educating, because our guests, the people that stay with us, they'll have a prognosis of about 4 to 8 weeks, most probably maybe 4 to 6 weeks of life expectancy. And those are often the hardest times for caregivers and loved ones to take care of their people.
Mhm.
And if they don't want to be I don't want to be in an assisted living, I don't want to be in an institution or a hospital.
Mhm.
I want to be in a home, and if it can't be my own, or if it can't be under the trees in the North Woods, and then, a home-like environment where I'm surrounded by people who are
Mhm.
treating me with care and dignity and giving me the autonomy to, right, practice my own ritual and ceremony in my room. And this is all at no cost to the guest. So we're doing this that's the nonprofit aspect of it, and that's how this is a community-run space. And that's why I need and want to talk about it, because it will only happen with support through funding of
Sure.
grants, philanthropists, people around who, once they understand this mission, which I learned when we did our first fundraiser, people got as excited as I felt about it when I learned about these homes. I know our community wants it. So I just am opening the door. This is how we make it happen. Can volunteer in the space, or right. It won't happen if community doesn't support it.
Sign me up. I've got a whole tribe who will come with me.
Yes.
Where? Where is it, the physical location? Have you
So we're
picked it?
working on we're working on it. Depending on that funding, we have a couple of options. We're keeping our fingers crossed about the possibility of opening a pilot at a very nearby assisted living space that has a wing that they're not really using,
Mhm.
where that would be something we could serve several beds. We could start with 2 and even move up to as many as 10. But even if that does happen, or if we just raise the funds, or if a local family donates their home that doesn't need it anymore, and I guarantee there are homes like that in our community,
Mhm.
um, through donating it to the nonprofit and then having this beautiful legacy of a space of how their home is being used moving forward. I mean, that's what happens in other parts of the country time and again. So it's either that or the dollars are gifted to Wally's Hearth to then purchase a home. So we've started the process. We have our coffers. We have like a base. We don't have enough for a space yet. And obviously operation costs is what's big. I'm the
Mhm.
executive director. So my dream come true to actually provide for my children, doing the work I love and know I'm good at. It's like blows my mind that this could actually be. So
You manifested it. You've put it out into the world. It's coming back tenfold. And, I have to share something because, and I'll probably get emotional. Um, when my dad went into the hospital after a stroke, he was on breathing tubes and that wasn't his wish. And so my brother was his advocate and caretaker. And so as collectively, we decided to take him off he didn't want any assistance in preserving his life. He was comatose for most of the experience we had with him in the hospital. And
yeah.
at one point, after we removed the tube, he sat up and he kept saying, "Home. I want to go home. I want to go home." Um,
Mm.
and so my brother's like, "We got to get him home," which was above the bar that he owns in Lincoln Park. And once we got him home, he died less than 24 hours later, and we had the Bears game on for him. And it was
Oh.
like he had been struggling in the hospital the entire week. And it wasn't until he was home that
Mm.
he was able to let go and be at peace. And um, so that's so, again, serendipitous that what you're saying is like this home environment, this sacred space, whether it's your actual home or a hospice home.
Mhm.
It just sounds like a beautiful ending to life.
Right? And don't we all deserve that? And that's why it's so important for the home to even be no cost to the guest. I mean, there's an organization called Omega Homes that we fall under, a national organization. And it's just a collection of other social model hospice homes. But, those spaces, those bedrooms that we get to bring people into, and in that period of time, learn from either the individual transitioning or their family members or their loved ones that brought them in, what pictures to put up, what scents to have in the room, just the things your dad, I'm sure, he just wanted that.
Yeah.
That's like a blanket, right? You just get to surround yourself in those comforts, and you'd be surprised sometimes what those comforts are. And I mean,
Seriously.
the Bears game better not be on when I'm going, 'cause it's not my thing.
It's individual, right? It's individual preference. We were
And
like,
I
"You want to
love
go
that.
to that home? That is not comfort to me." But it's comfort. It's what he knew, and it was a full circle moment. And you have to honor that.
You do.
And I think we all showed up for him in that way.
Mm.
None of us knew if we would show up for him at the end of life, and it didn't even seem like an option. We got the call and we all just showed up.
Yeah. And that's just as much for you as it is for him,
Yeah.
because you move forward in your life with that memory. The fact that, well, for your dad, I mean, even more than the fact that he existed. I mean, you exist because he existed, but
Yeah.
but I tell people this who don't necessarily have a strong faith journey or any, and okay, great. I mean, I don't see your experience with the death and dying journey to be any less than or different, because the very fact you existed is there's just this ripple effect. And all the different lives you touched in good and bad and other ways, right? It
Yeah.
matters. Every minute of it matters. So I always tell that if I'm honored enough to be there towards the end, you are loved, you matter, you're safe, all those things. It's so important. I think sometimes, I shouldn't say always, but I like those reminders. I might kind of know it deep down, but it is wonderful to have an environment and people around you that are aware of the importance of that at the end to be there and hold that space.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I want more people to have that.
Tiffany, you are such a gift. And I know you just celebrated a birthday.
I did. My last year in this decade. I love it.
And so many people who listen to this podcast are middle-aged women who are um, working through grief and loss of their own parents or aging parents and end of life phases. So thank you for educating us, and we just scratched the surface. So people can go to your website. I will link it to the show notes so people can learn more, and um, we'll all volunteer and help you open this home.
Please. Well, you know what I hope? I hope it's the first in Chicagoland. I hope that it becomes every different community has one because there too, there's only just so many beds, and this is a highly successful model. I just want to show everyone what it is, and then we make more of them.
Do you sleep? Do you meditate? Do you?
Yeah, I try. I
I'm like,
try.
where does this aura come from?
Gratitude. It just comes from gratitude.
That's the key, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how long I've got. I want to be here to become a grandma, and I hope I get to.
Mhm.
But if I don't, I'm going to imprint a lot of goofy memories on these kids I've got. You know, I live life fully, and that's what I want other people to take away. I think people are afraid to talk about this because it's sort of like they're afraid of they're going to make it happen. What is
Yeah.
that thing about superstition? Like,
Mhm. Mhm.
but but if you prepare, actually, it's a huge weight off of shoulders. I hear that over and over. So I can help people prepare. The documents are free, they're out there. It's
Yeah.
not rocket science.
Mhm.
Just make sure you like your power of attorney and you trust them
Mhm.
and put that paperwork in like 4 different hands because you don't know who's accessible when that's needed. So,
And you can help navigate that. I mean, and it's affordable. And so people can hire you to
oh,
help with
yeah,
that.
it's like you can get it all done for free, but I also know there's a lot of things I could do for free, and like I'm not going to work out as hard as it'll if I have a trainer.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
there's just little things about having someone walk you through it. It's worthwhile, and I know it inside and out, and can happily use that expertise to get you through it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Having just gone through it, that's an invaluable service that you provide. So thank you. Okay, so for everybody listening, just a friendly reminder to be the change that you wish to see in the world, in your community, in your own family, or individually. Thank you so much for listening.
thank you.